Hello and welcome to another episode of Attacking Third, a CBS Sports Soccer podcast. I'm Sandra and Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports, joined today as always by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, broadcaster and analyst for CBS Sports. On today's episode, the NWSL Challenge Cup 2022 will begin this Friday. We are so excited. It's finally here. It's Challenge Cup week. Before we take a deep dive into everything, a quick reminder to follow us on Twitter for all news and updates at Attacking Third. You can watch us as video too at youtube.com/Attacking Third, and be sure to subscribe so that you never miss out on our exclusive interviews or whenever we go live. I cannot believe it. Here we are, Challenge Cup week, Lisa. It's a
Woo! We did it, Sandra. We did it. We made it to this week. I mean, a long winter, a long off season.
Yep.
We've talked a lot about these teams, almost danced around the season a little bit, but this is it, like our big Challenge Cup preview. I mean, I'm pumped about this. I am just ecstatic. Let's do it. Like it's here, Challenge Cup. I can't wait to hear your picks and your predictions and what teams you're going to look out for, what players and everything like that. I mean, we've been waiting for it. It is here, 2022. Let's do it.
Yeah, we have been waiting for it. I feel like we blinked and everything went by, right? All of a sudden there was an off season that took place, trades, Challenge Cup, schedule dropped, and it's officially March. We're in the full swing of it, have done our team by team previews. But another fun thing about March, and that we want to let our Attacking Third listeners know, is we want you all to compete with us with a bracket challenge game. It is March Madness. I'll be in there. Lisa Roman's going to be in there. United States women's national team star Lori Lindsay will be in there. And we all want you to join along with us as well. You can join at cbssports.com/Attacking Third. And of course, the winner is going to get a great prize. It's going to be a $100 gift card to Paramount Plus. You'll be able to watch NCAA tournament games on Paramount Plus. Tons of soccer, from Champions League to CONCACAF golf majors in the spring, and NFL football in the fall. It'll cover you for the whole year. So we're very, very excited for that, and for the debut of Halo, which is streaming March 24th exclusively on Paramount Plus. You can head on over to paramountplus.com/Halo to try it for free. But back to the brackets. I know that no one can actually just enter one bracket pool. I'm not going to enter just one. Lisa probably won't enter just one. But you can actually create a group to compete against friends and fill out your bracket for the chance to win a trip to the 2023 Final Four. And we also have a women's bracket challenge this year. The game works just like the men's, with a chance to win a trip to the 2023 Women's Final Four. Plus, anyone that plays both the men and women's challenges will be entered to win a Nissan Frontier. So join the Attacking Third bracket, compete against Lisa and myself to win a $100 Paramount Plus gift card at cbssports.com/Attacking Third. I would really like a car. That sounds like a real nice treat. That would be really nice to win a car.
It's a great prize to win. I mean, potential to get a car. You could go to the Final Four, the 2022 men's Final Four, the 2023 women's Final Four. There's a lot of good options out there. And of course, in our Attacking Third bracket challenge, Sandra, I mean, we will be competing against each other. Don't worry, it's going down. And then all of our listeners that sign up, you get to compete against us. And if you win the Attacking Third bracket, you get a $100 gift card to Paramount Plus. It's a full year subscription to Paramount Plus. You can watch all the NWSL games, all the Challenge Cups, the drafts, anything that we put on Paramount Plus. It's actually a pretty sweet deal. I have these gift cards as a producer of this show that I'm just looking to give out to people. So stay tuned. We'll have a lot of these, but this is your first chance. Win a Paramount Plus gift card. Try to beat me. Challenge.
We'll see. I don't know. Lisa, you've been talking smack. I'm ready to see how you do with your bracket.
I gotta be careful. I'm talking a lot of smack. I love to win, and I love these games in March Madness. But I hope our listeners beat me. I hope they take me down.
I love a good, healthy competition. I think it's good for a number of reasons, but people might not believe me when I say this, but it's also good for friendship, honestly. I love it. So I'm excited to participate in that with you and all of our listeners who join along. But speaking of games and competition, I mean, they're here. Challenge Cup is starting this Friday. Let's start diving into this. You can watch.
It's our first year covering the entire season, from Challenge Cup to the NWSL Championship.
You know what?
Attacking Third. This is it. This is the start for us.
You know what? You stunned me a little bit.
Yeah.
It hit me right in the feelings. It's true,
I
actually,
know.
because we're just when we launched Attacking Third, it was kind of like mid-season of things. We kind of came out right during the summer, uh,
July. Mhm.
ahead of the Olympics, and this really is kind of like us jumping into the full length year of NWSL, and it really is starting this week. You can watch all NWSL Challenge Cup matches streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus, and the championship match will be on CBS. Let's get into maybe an overview of this. If folks are new to the league, if folks are new to NWSL, there's some minor differences, right, from this year's Challenge Cup versus last year's Challenge Cup. This is the third annual time for the Challenge Cup. It began in 2020. It was the first professional sports league to do a bubble and do it 100% successfully with zero positive cases. It was a huge event, um, monumental, quite frankly. NWSL will forever kind of have that glory, I guess, so to speak, in that very unprecedented time. It was the first contact team sport to return to play at the peak of the pandemic. And with the success of that event, there has been a Challenge Cup every year since 2020. So now for 2022 is going to be the third annual event. This time it's there's enough teams to sort of break things down into regional groups. There were also regional groups last year, but expanding from a 10 team league to a 12 team league with the three regional groups still composed of four teams, breaking down into an East region, a Central region, and a West region. Lisa.
Yes, for the East. I mean, logically, it's done regionally because these teams like travel wise. So that makes a lot of sense to me. But East region will be New York, New Jersey, Gotham FC, North Carolina Courage, Orlando Pride, and Washington Spirit. The Central region will be Chicago Red Stars, Houston Dash, Kansas City Current, and Racing Louisville FC. And then the West region, two expansion clubs in this one, Angel City FC and San Diego Wave, along with OL Reign and Portland Thorns. So these three groups, four teams each, and each of these groups are going to play in a double round robin matches. So each team will play 6 matches, which is a change from last year. Last year, each club only played 4 matches. So upping that this year, which is fun. It starts on Friday, March 18th, and the semifinals are going to take place Wednesday, May 4th, with the Challenge Cup final happening on Saturday, May 7th. This game is going to air on CBS. There's a handful of games airing on big CBS, but everything else will be on Paramount Plus throughout the Challenge Cup. It starts with the group stages, each team playing 6 matches in this double round robin and point system as NWSL usually does. 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, and 0 points for a loss. Then the semifinal, you still need 4 teams. So it'll be the top teams in each group making it through to the semifinals, but then also one of the number 2 teams, the top
Yep.
number 2 team in all 3 of the groups will advance to the semifinals. So you even have a chance if you don't outright win your group, but you have the most points compared to the other second place teams, you still could squeak through to the semifinals.
Yeah, I like with the expansion of the league, right? That included maybe the adjustment of some rules for the
Mhm.
Challenge Cup a little bit. So it's not, there's already a couple things where we can point at and say, this is a little bit different from its inaugural, uh, you know, year in 2020 or even versus last year in 2021, in that it's not just about who's winning number one in their group. It's you can actually
Exactly.
compete based on points if you're number two. And then obviously I think with this sort of being kind of the it's being viewed a little bit as the preseason tournament, right? Because it's going to
Mhm.
be the first bit of NWS action for some of these clubs outside of their preseason. There are some clubs who have gone head to head already in some preseason scrimmages, but this one's going to be for points. This one's going to be for a title, right? It's the first shot at a title in 2022. So it's exciting to sort of take a look at how these teams are going to be broken down into the groups and kind of have to note the rules a little bit, because I think when it comes to these kind of preseason-y vibe type of games, you have to maybe kind of keep in the back of your mind tiebreakers, right,
Yeah.
Lisa? We love to talk about tiebreakers sometimes when it comes to this league.
You honestly have to talk about them because so many times, I mean, when you reflect on the 2021 season, it came down to some tiebreakers at the end of it. Every week we were like, well, if this holds. So, yeah, tiebreakers are always involved. It's goal differential and the greatest number of goals scored, then number of points in the group matches between the two teams that are concerned, if that makes sense. And it kind of goes all the way down to red card and yellow card accumulation, which is a possibility. So there are tiebreakers listed out there, which I hate to say it, but I have a feeling
Ugh,
we might fall into this. It's tiebreakers listed out in the rules that I will be keeping a close hand on, especially as I'm calling these games, because
yeah,
you need to keep that in the back of your mind as you're watching something. Goal differential is huge. And in the regular season and in the Challenge Cup, if you have a 3-0 lead and you let up a goal, that's really good for your opponents because now they have a goal against you and you lost your clean sheet. So there's so many different factors that come into it. But ultimately, 4 teams will head into the semifinals. First place team will play against fourth, and then number 2 and number 3 will compete against each other. But games can end in a tie throughout
yeah,
the Challenge Cup. It's very possible.
yeah,
We're not going into extra time. The games will end in regulation. So no overtime, first overtime, second overtime, none of that. Just ending in a tie at the end of it. But semifinal rounds, those 2 matches on Wednesday, May 4th, if it's a tie at the end of regulation, those games will go directly into penalty kicks. I think there'll be like a 5-minute break or
yeah,
something just for teams to kind of assess themselves. But whoever's on the pitch at the end of regulation, they're either going to be taking or saving
yeah.
the penalty kicks, right? It goes straight into penalty kicks. I kind of like that energy.
Just gonna go straight to drama. I love
I
that.
kind
Who
of
doesn't
like
love
that
that?
energy. Like we gotta get a winner or a loser here. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Carry on. Keep it moving. Yeah, no, there's a ton of with the third annual event, it's the additional rules, the additional tiebreakers that are put into place. I mean, they're in there for a reason, obviously, to make sure that the tournament runs smoothly. But just sort of taking note of some of these things, it's expanding into the games, right? It's not going to be just 4 games; it's going to be 6 games. And sort of, we noted within the rules some other interesting components that we wanted to mention because yes, this is 2022; it's the third annual event, et cetera, et cetera. But there's still things that can happen, right? Unfortunately, people are still navigating, an ongoing pandemic, in certain markets,
Mhm.
and there's some things within the rules that even point out to these games that in the event a scheduled game is postponed for any reason, there's going to be an effort to try to find an alternate date to play the match. But for whatever reason, it's absolutely impossible to reschedule the match. There's going to be no points awarded for that match specifically because it was unable to be played. And then there's further rules talking about, if a match was postponed and canceled due to negligence by a participating team, forfeitures will come into play, right? And we're mentioning this because we had to cover a NWSL 2021 season where there were forfeitures that were issued for the first time. So these are things that we're going to be keeping an eye on during Challenge Cup as well, because that's also within the rules. And it's noting that even with potential cancellations, even with the potential to not have any points awarded, that teams have to play at least 4 matches in order to be eligible to advance to a semifinal.
Yeah, so it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things spelled out there. But you mentioned the forfeitures, possible rescheduling of matches, and if they can't play the game, it'll just be zeros across the board. But it's also interesting, which we talked about when the framework of the 2022 year came out between the Challenge Cup and the NWSL regular season. The Challenge Cup final has been set since the draft when this initial quote framework of the season came out to be on Saturday, May 7th. That was when the NWSL Challenge Cup was going to have their final and it was going to be on CBS.
Yeah.
Then they announced that the regular season was actually going to start before the Challenge Cup ends. So there are going to be regular season matches on May 7th. So that's also just like something to keep in mind as this quote unquote preseason tournament of the Challenge Cup is happening. If you make it to the Challenge Cup final, you do have to cancel your regular season game for that day or that weekend because you're not going to play a Friday, Saturday. So, like, does that de-incentivize teams to make it to the Challenge Cup final?
We're both shrugging. For people who aren't watching this, we're like,
I mean,
shrug
if you're gonna, we play this game sometimes, Sandra, where I get the coach's hat, I get the whiteboard, I get the dry erase marker. Yeah, as cool as it is to win the Challenge Cup, and that's a trophy, and that's huge for your club. I mean, it's a trophy. It's one of the four that you could win in a year in the NWSL. It means more to get 3 points in a regular season game than it does to get 3 points in a Challenge Cup game. It means more, and now this is kind of where the question comes down to it. Does it mean more to get 3 points and a win in a regular season NWSL game, or to play in a championship game? Because you're not guaranteed to win that one. Yep. I'm just saying play in it, compete in it.
Yeah.
And if you lose and you're the runners up to the Challenge Cup, you just wasted 3 points. And now you have to reschedule a regular season game that could potentially make shorter rest days in between other games, difficult travel, like kind of throws off the rest of your schedule.
Yeah. And a lot of this is us, reacting to the fact that to information and reporting that's already out there, right, regarding the schedule. Because you and I, in terms of us at this time of recording, there is no actual NWSL regular season schedule out at the moment. We're just operating around what the information that is in front of us, available to us in regards to Challenge Cup. So there's a number of things to take into consideration as we really take this first step into Challenge Cup week. In terms of just a quick preview of the cup, what's again for everybody, the tournament's going to kick off with a rematch of last year's regular season opener between the Kansas City Current and Racing Louisville FC. It's going to be hosted at Lynn Family Stadium, and the opening day festivities will close out with one of the top rivalries in women's soccer as Oil Reign hosts the 2021 Challenge Cup winners Portland Thorns FC, and they're going to face off at Lumens Field in Seattle, Washington. If you need more information, I got you hooked up. You can head on over to cbssports.com and go check out the article on everything about Challenge Cup. We are going to get into some more with Challenge Cup festivities that we're celebrating this week. We're going to talk about maybe some winners, losers. It's too early to predict that, but we're going to do it anyway, and we're going to do it right after a quick break. Let's chat Challenge Cup winners and losers. People are real attached to those words, right? If you're on one side or the other. And you know what? We're going to keep that going here on Attacking Third. We're going to take a look at each of the regions for Challenge Cup, the way they are broken down, the teams who are involved in them, maybe kind of jump into the previews that we were doing a little bit of these teams during our NWSL team by team preseason previews, and take a look at maybe who stands out among these three regional groups as Challenge Cup gets slated to kick off. Let's start with the East region, Lisa. For the East region, it's New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC, North Carolina Courage, Orlando Pride, and Washington Spirit. So when we did our previews of these particular teams, we had Gotham ranked at 4th, in terms of a projected finish come the end of 2022 season. North Carolina Courage gave them a bit of a range. We said they can be as ambitious, as 6th place or possibly fall out of contention at 7 or 8.
They were right on our bubble.
They were on our bubble. We had a lot of bubble teams, in
an
expansion year. Orlando Pride, we kept them at the bottom. We got to see what they're made of, right? Maybe we'll get a taste of that in this Challenge Cup at 12th place. And Washington Spirit, you and I both agree that this is going to be the team to chase during 2022 as the top number 1 ranked team, the defending NWSL champions. We got them ranked at number 1. When you're looking at this East region, who are you looking to make some noise during this Challenge Cup out of this particular group?
Well, I think all eyes are on Washington Spirit. They have to be, as 2021 NWSL champions. We dubbed them as number 1 heading into 2022. I mean, they're at the top of the table right now. They're top dogs. Can they be the same? I mean, we did our deep dive of Washington Spirit and kind of looking at their roster. They return majority of their players from last year. They're still a young squad with that mix of experience between Kelly O'Hara, Aubrey Bledsoe, now Kingsbury, Emily Sonnet, Andy Sullivan in the midfield. So they have a really nice mix. Now they have Chris Ward as head coach, with a preseason for him, although missing a lot of players due to international duty during the preseason. I think that Challenge Cup is going to be a good jumping off point for Washington Spirit. Honestly, I don't think we'll see the team that we saw at the end of 2021 at the start of Challenge Cup. I just don't. But I don't think it'll be the same team that we'll see throughout the regular season, just kind of based on how things shake out. So when I look at this East region between Gotham, North Carolina, Orlando, and Washington, I think that Gotham and Washington are going to be the two teams to kind of chase here in this East region. Top dogs, especially with Gotham, they have a lot of new faces. They have Christy Mewis, they have Ashlyn Harris, they have Ali Krieger, they have Yokiyama. They just have different players that can provide different looks for Gotham, and also with Scott Parkinson as their head coach. So I think I might dub Gotham as my winner of this bracket. And honestly, I'm going to give Orlando Pride as my loser of this East region, just because of the growth that they need to have and the strides that they need to make throughout this Challenge Cup, which frankly could be seen as a winner in that sense if they can make strides, establish themselves, get 6 games under their belt against reigning NWSL champions Gotham. North Carolina is known as a powerhouse, kind of seeing what they can do there. But a lot of young players on Orlando, a new coach in Amanda Cromwell, just a lot of things there that are uncertain to me. So that's what I'm going to go with for the East region. But we'll see kind of what Washington happens. For you, Sandra, is there a loser in this group of 4 by any chance? And loser just in like a loose sense, you
In a
know?
loser in a loser sense? I don't know. We're just having fun with it here. We try to have fun on attacking third, right? I'm with you 100% on maybe the teams to look out for who are going to come out as the winners on this one. And obviously, we mentioned Spirit is as the reigning NWSL champions, and then Gotham as sort of this team to try to build off of what they built off of last year, right? We hit them with the burning question: can they deliver on the pitch when it matters, right? And we're going to get a taste of that from this team in the Challenge Cup. But I'm with you in terms of when we're looking at those quote unquote loser side of things here. Like, what are we going to be looking at from this group? We had ranked the Pride low for a projected finish in the regular season, but I'm not too sure if that's going to be true for the Challenge Cup. I'm not saying that they're going to come out here and shock the league and run away, with their group and then run away with the Challenge Cup, but we are going to get a look at teams very much coming out of a preseason sense, still sort of kicking off the rust. And I think when you have so many teams kind of starting off at the same level, anything can happen because people are still trying to shake off the rust. They're still trying to sort of iron out those crinkles, right, in their games and from the off season. So I'm curious to sort of see what Amanda Cromwell's Orlando Pride looks in this Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity for them to maybe look at it not so much as a long season grind, but kind of this this sort of small mini tournament where you can maybe try to capture lightning in a bottle, right? And sort of maybe be able to go up against teams who are maybe still trying to figure out the same thing. Because when you're looking at a side like North Carolina Courage, maybe in a similar position to Gotham in terms of having a handful of veteran NWSL experienced players on their team, but still mostly having a lot of fresh new faces and younger prospects, right? And yet on one hand, people are viewing the Courage as potentially maybe being like a bubble team, like how we had them, versus looking at a team like the Pride and saying, no, we're going to be ranking them a little lower. So I think there's an argument to be made, right, for either of those teams. But I'm still excited to sort of see how they roll out. I want to see what these new players, what this new blood is bringing to these franchises in NWSL this year.
Yeah, I am hyped about that. I'm excited about the East region, and There could be big powerhouses there. When you look at the central region, Sandra, Chicago Red Stars, Houston Dash, Kansas City Current, and Racing Louisville FC, all those Midwest teams packed in the middle there. Our rankings for them when we did our preseason and our team by team previews for Chicago, we put them just on the bubble of playoffs, that 6, 7, 8 range, to see if they could squeak into playoffs. Houston, they were also a bubble team for us, 6, 7, 8. Kansas City, they had a number of offseason trades and movement in their front office and with their player personnel. We dubbed them at number 5. So in playoff contention with the Sox top 6 spots making the postseason for the regular season. And then for Racing Louisville, we had them at the bottom of the table, not quite last though, but we put them at 11 to start this regular season. So when you look at these 4 clubs, Chicago, Houston, Kansas City, and Racing Louisville, is there one that really stands out to you? Who do you think could dominate this group, this central region?
When I'm looking at this central region, first of all, I'm like, Midwest is best, right? I'm always gonna stand, right, for the for the Midwest. But you're also looking at these other teams, Houston, right, repping the South, Racing repping the Midwest, the South Midwest. Well, look,
It's Midwest. It's
we'll
far
let
from me
them
on the East Coast is Midwest.
we'll let them determine and label themselves. I'm not gonna put labels on anybody. They can label themselves, but I'm loving it. I'm loving the Central region. Feels right. Feels like it's gonna be some good soccer coming out of this one. But when I'm looking for a team who's gonna stand out and potentially be the winners of this group, I have to take a look at Kansas City Current. I'm very impressed with their offseason and what they've been doing to date, going out and picking up, making player acquisitions, right, making moves off the pitch. And I'm hoping what we see during Challenge Cup is that it's going to translate onto the pitch for them, that this hype that they're doing around their club is going to actually lead to results for them on this pitch, right? This is one of the clubs that we're talking about when we've been mentioning in some of our previews, and even in this one for Challenge Cup, that there have been some NWSL franchises that have got out there and had some head-to-head preseason scrimmages with other clubs, and that includes Kansas City Current, that includes Orlando Pride, right? That includes Washington Spirit, that includes Chicago Red Stars, that includes Kansas City Current. So there's already been a little bit of a taste in terms of stepping out onto the pitch and going up against other NWSL clubs. But this is going to be the first time where they do it in front of, cameras and lights, and have to sort of, work out the X's and O's on a pitch to pick up points in an effort to actually mean something. So I'm excited to take a look at Kansas City and what they're going to be producing. And I'm looking at them to sort of take this central region. When you're looking at the opposite side of this, who are you looking at among these teams to maybe kind of get left behind and work on their regular season earlier than anticipated?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to phrase it. Almost get left behind in the Challenge Cup, but focus on the regular season. I think that Racing Louisville has good pieces, despite our early rankings of them at 11th at the end of the 2022 regular season. I think that they could surprise people throughout this Challenge Cup. Maybe it's the fact that they have players like Jess McDonald that can say, like, let's win this thing. Like, I mean, for me, if I'm Racing Louisville head coach, probably not going to win the NWSL regular season. Now, I'm not telling anyone that, and I'm not really even thinking about that, but I have that thought in my head. But if I have the potential to win the Challenge Cup, that's pretty huge. You want to go out, put all your eggs in a basket, and you can do that. So Racing Louisville isn't going to be my loser. I'm kind of excited to see what happens with them in this Challenge Cup, what they can bring, what they can provide. I think between Chicago and Houston, they could take this Challenge Cup as a stepping stone towards the regular season, and they could kind of look past it almost to say, all right, let's throw out maybe our C team and see what they can do, and we'll keep our starters healthy. So I could see Chicago and Houston not making it through to the semifinals, but kind of battling it out. So I'm interested to watch that match between those two teams. Maybe Houston, we'll see. I'll give it to them. I'm not entirely sure with this one. I am excited to watch Kansas City though in Racing. I think they have a lot to prove, especially in this central region. It's almost like
there's a lot of sleeper picks.
Exactly.
I think in this one.
Exactly. It's a little bit of a snackable region that Kansas City can go and just take it game by game, racing Louisville as well. They can say, okay, like we can beat Kansas City. We've done it in the past. They have different players, but so do we. And let's go out there and play. So I'm actually pretty pumped for the Central region. We'll see. Maybe Midwest is best, but I'm not going to give that one to you yet.
We'll see. They still got to play the games, right? We've got one more region to get through, and we're taking a look at winners, potential winners and losers coming out of the Challenge Cup. For the West region, it's Angel City FC, OL Reign, Portland Thorns FC, and San Diego Wave FC to close out the West. It's two expansion sides that are part of this West region amongst some heavy hitters, right, in NWSL history. Two teams that have been in part of the NWSL since 2013. Lisa, when you're looking at these teams, who are you looking to sort of, pick as your winner to have these big impacts during Challenge Cup?
Who do I think is going to win and kind of make a big punch? Portland Thorns. I do. I
Okay.
think that they're a team that we've gotten a taste of them in their preseason tournament and kind of what they can provide, what they can do. And Olivia Moultrie isn't even playing with them; she's playing with
Yeah.
the U23s.
Yep.
So to then have her back on the squad, I think that Portland is going to show up. They want to be a top dog. They want to win. They don't want to take anything easy. They like to win every game and play every single match like it's their last one and like it's a championship. So I could see Portland coming into this Challenge Cup and looking to be big winners. I think it's going to be a stepping stone for Angel City and San Diego because there's a lot of pressure, a lot of lights, a lot of sparkle around them. But I'm going to go with Portland. For you, I mean, as you mentioned, two expansion clubs, two heavy hitters in Portland and OL Reign. For me, I think Portland is going to be a big 1-2 punch against these other sides. Maybe not OL Reign, but I think they're not going to go easy against the expansion clubs in Angel City and San Diego. Nope, not at all. Not by any means. For you, who stands out, whether it's positive sides, who you're looking to watch, winners, loser, anything, which team of these four stands out?
Listen, I'm with you, but I'm going to be going in the same idea, but with a different team. I want to be looking at OL Reign to sort of continue to build on what they were also building on last year, right? Laura Harvey coming in mid to late season in 2021. A lot of the makeup of the team is more or less still together in terms of their starters that we could see as people who could be considered kind of key players, right, amongst this roster. I want to see them throughout the duration of the Challenge Cup and get different looks, and I'm sure they're going to pick up results. Obviously, they're going to produce good games when it's talking about these two particular teams and their rivalries. But when you're looking at these two California sides, it's also going to be their kind of first crack at some NWSL action, right? It's going to still be preseason. It's still going to be teammates who are still getting used to each other, getting familiar with how the other plays and familiar with their movements on the pitch and stuff like that. So I think the West region could actually be the region that kind of starts to separate itself a little bit, where you're sort of seeing like the 1 and 2 of the group and then the 3 and 4 of the group. Now, how it's going to shake out, we still have to, that we still have to take a look at the games and see how that all shakes out. But I'm going to be going for, winners in this one, looking at OL Reign to kind of make some noise a little bit. And I'm going to be looking at one of the California teams to sort of maybe fight for the wooden spoon in that they don't want to be at the bottom of the table for this one. So when we're looking at each of these teams, let's just rapid fire. Let's go East, Central, West. When you're looking at it, give me 3 teams who you think are going to push through to a semifinal.
Yeah, so it's one team from each region. The top team pushes through to the semifinal and then number 2 of one of them. All right, so East region. I'm going to go Washington Spirit.
Okay.
Top dog taking it through. Central region, Kansas City. Heck yeah, give it to me, Casey Current. West region, Portland Thorns for me.
Right on. I'm similar, but a little bit different. I'm going Gotham. I'm going Gotham coming out of the East. For Central, I'm keeping it Kansas City. I want to drink the teal Kool-Aid. And for West region, I'm sticking with OL Reign. In terms of Challenge Cup as a whole, we have to talk about some potential big matchups, because something else that we need to point out amongst going through the rules, the tiebreakers, the scheduling of things, we need to chat a little bit about potential big matchup. Something else I think that we need to point out as we're chatting about all those things is that, this is starting a little bit earlier as opposed to last year's Challenge Cup, kind of later in March. And this one's kind of happening in mid March, and it's going to be going through all the way to May 7th. When we're looking at big matchups happening throughout from March 18th all the way through to May 7th. Who are you going to be looking at for games on your calendar to try to circle, Lisa?
We kind of touched on this when we went through each region about kind of who we're looking out for and what we're kind of diving into. So when we talked about the East region between Washington and Gotham, I think they're the top dogs in that East region alongside North Carolina and Orlando Pride. And Washington being NWSL 2021 champions, target on their back, and Gotham, this team that almost looking to prove themselves, looking to put destiny and their own fate in their own hands. They have new players with Christy Mewis on their squad and Ashlyn Harris and Allie Krieger. So I'm excited for that matchup between Gotham and Washington. The first time they face off in this Challenge Cup is March 25th. I think it'll be a really good game because it's the second weekend of play for both of these squads. So they already have a game under their belt. And then it's like top dog in East region against top dog. So I'm really, really keyed in to see who comes out for this one. And I think both squads will also play their top teams in this matchup on March 25th. Another one that I think a lot of people have circled on their calendar is the expansion sides going at it Saturday, March 19th, opening weekend of the Challenge Cup, San Diego versus Angel City. I cannot tell you who's going to win. I cannot. There's nothing I can do to tell you. But I'm really excited to see what happens because this is also another matchup that will have a lot of eyes on it. And I think that head coaches, Angel City, Freya Coombe, and for San Diego, Casey Stoney, are going to want to show the world what they've been working on, everything that they've built at their respective clubs. And it's the head-to-head clash of the California expansion side. So this one I'm also keyed in on. And then also March 25th, so the second weekend of games, Kansas City. I have 2 Kansas City games circled on the schedule that I'm really hyped to look at because when we looked at the Central region against Chicago, Houston, and Racing Louisville, Kansas City, we both put them through to the semifinals when we just chatted about that. So I want to see how Kansas City does against Chicago because that could be a good matchup. Although Chicago could be a sleeper in this Challenge Cup, I almost want to say they could go out and look to be heavy hitters, or they can kind of sit back and just try to get their footing ahead of the regular season. I want to see what Kansas City can do against Chicago, a very good defensive team, a very good midfield team in Chicago. How can Kansas City play against them? And then also against Houston, I think a team that could be on the same level of Kansas City if things kind of shake out the way that it's written on paper right now. So I want to see how Houston and Kansas City go against each other. I think it'll be really telling kind of formations that come out, tendencies that start to be seen in the March 30th match between Houston and Kansas City on both sides. I want to see what the Dash can do as well, but I'm mostly keyed in on Kansas City. I'm excited to watch this Challenge Cup. A lot of matches for me circled. I'll be calling a handful of them. But for you, Sandra, which ones are you watching besides all of them and all of the Chicago ones?
Besides all of them for CBS Sports, right? I love that you've got not one but 2 Central Region games that are highlighted for you on that large canvas of a Challenge Cup schedule. I like it, Picasso. I'm with you. I think the West Coast rivalry with San Diego and Angel City is one to take a look at. Obviously, the Central Region games I'm excited about as well. But I think when I'm looking at rivalry games, I have to keep that opening weekend rivalry game between the Reign and the Thorns on Friday, March 18th, booked on my calendar. It has been since the Challenge Cup schedule dropped, but I'm looking also later into April a little bit because again, this is a longer Challenge Cup. So I'm looking at that April 3rd matchup between Gotham and North Carolina. I'm a little curious as to how that's going to look like. I'm also a little curious at the personnel that's going to be available, for those matches. We're talking a lot about a Challenge Cup that's going to be taking place between March through April. And in between April, there's going to be a number of players who are off on international duty, right? With the United States women's national team announcing friendlies that are going to be taking place in the middle of April. So some of these teams are going to get a look at on the pitch for more evaluations of other players in light of maybe you know, key starters or key players who are missing during Challenge Cup. So I'm excited for all of these matches. I'm excited to get a look at all of these clubs out on the pitch, but there can only be one who lifts the cup at the end. Lisa, who do you got?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I mean, I have to do this logically. I had Washington Spirit going through Kansas City and Portland. Um, I'm going to say Gotham. I think Gotham's
Okay.
going to be the number 2 team that gets through the semifinals, and they power through. They make it. They lift the cup at the end. I think they're a hungry team that wants to win. A mix of veterans and players that got a taste of the playoffs in 2021 that want more. They want so much more than that. I'm going Gotham at the end of it all. Sandra, who do you have?
I'm going with the Reign. I'm taking the Reign. I've got winners. I'm the winners coming out of each of those groups, right? I said Gotham. I said you know, I said Kansas City, and I said All Reign, and I'm sticking by those. But I think when I'm looking at those three, it could really be any of them. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna lean into All Reign a little bit. I think that they're a little bit disappointed with how their season ended, with nothing to point at and say that that's something that we went out and we got during that season. And I think that they want to continue to build off of that.
Do you think Laura Harvey, it's a lot to do with her, or is it more coming from the players in that sense? And this is just your like
Yeah, no, I think it's a
outsider
good
look at.
I think it's a good mix of both. Listen, I'm not gonna, you know, come on here and say that, you know, this franchise doesn't have anything to look at, period. I'm just looking at their 2021 as a whole. At the end of the day, if Laura Harvey decides to hang him up tomorrow, she could still be one of the winningest coaches in NWSL and hang her hat on that. You know, a coach of the year, hang her hat on that. She's a 2-time Shield winner, hang her hat on that, right? She is a winning coach in this league. But when it comes to 2021, this team really took a turn to sort of make a push towards the end, and they fell short of a Shield and they fell short of a finals appearance and making a run at that championship. So I would love to see them come out in Challenge Cup and really make some noise and go ahead and lift the cup, whether it's you know, a team that's mixed of veterans and, you know, longtime NWSL players and new faces as well. I think they're a fun circus for everyone to sort of join in and watch. So I think they should tune into them, and that's who I'm going with my pick for the cup.
So you got OL Reign. I'm going with Gotham. We'll see. We'll check back in May 7th and see what happens there. I'm really excited. I mean, Challenge Cup, it is here. It all starts on Friday. We got a lot of games coming at it. This is it. Group stages until the semifinals on May 4th. Top 3 teams in each of the regions. Top team goes through to the semifinal. Second place team goes through. We'll see what happens, Sandra. It's here.
It's here. I'm glad everyone is listening to us and our picks. I can't wait for people to tell us how wrong we are. We love when that happens. We've got a Challenge Cup Weekend 1 preview that's going to be coming out Friday. So please check back in with us as we take a more narrow look at the weekend slate of games that will be taking place. Thank you all so much for listening. You can follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third for more. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you listen to your podcast shows. If you leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, thank you very much. But if you have any questions for us, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts with your question, and Lisa and I will answer during our mailbag segment. We're also available as video. Subscribe at youtube.com/attacking third, and we'll be back on Tuesday with more. If you haven't already seen it, we're celebrating Women's History Month with Title IX Tuesdays. We've already interviewed United States Women's National Team midfielder Sam Mewis and WNBA coach Sandy Brondello. You could check those out on our feeds. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.